As soon as news of Dolly Parton's death on August 25, 2026, spread, the entire world was stunned by the passing of one of the greatest icons in American music. Many people thought that at the age of 80, she had simply brought her life to a close after decades of dedication. But the truth behind Dolly's death was more complicated than that, and it was deeply connected to her husband, Carl Dean. They had been together for more than 60 years. Dolly devoted herself to caring for him during the final years of his life, when Alzheimer's disease took away his health and memory. But only recently, before her own death, Dolly Parton revealed that she had been physically exhausted for years. Her husband, Carl Dean, had remained faithful to her for decades, but he had almost never stepped into the spotlight to accompany her, leaving Dolly to shoulder almost everything on her own many times. So what did a strong woman like Dolly quietly sacrifice to preserve that marriage for more than half a century? And how were the years she spent caring for her husband connected to the final days of her own life? Dolly Parton was born on January 19, 1946, a poor girl who grew up in a small home in the mountains of Tennessee. But she went on to accomplish something that perhaps even those closest to her could hardly have imagined. From small stages, Dolly rose to become one of the most successful artists in the history of country music, with a career spanning more than 6 decades. She was not only a singer, but also a songwriter, actress, producer, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. Guinness World Records recognized Dolly with numerous records, including the achievement of being a female artist with a top 10 Billboard country album in 7 consecutive decades. She also sold more than 100 million records worldwide and built an enormous fortune almost entirely through her own talent and personal brand. Dolly Parton did not captivate people solely with her talent and wealth. As early as the 1970s, she had become one of the most prominent women in America because of her highly distinctive appearance. Her voluminous blonde hair, red lips, tiny waist, prominent curves, and figure-hugging outfits quickly drew media attention. In 1978, the Washington Post even called her a new sex symbol, showing just how powerful Dolly's appeal had become at the time. Her image appeared on posters that many American men wanted to hang in their rooms, alongside other iconic beauties of the era. And of course, a woman as famous, beautiful, and alluring as Dolly was bound to attract the attention of men. Among them was Hollywood actor Burt Reynolds. The two starred together in The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in 1982 and were quickly paired by the media. Years later, Reynolds admitted that he was crazy about Dolly, showing that his admiration for the singer was genuine, although there is no evidence that they ever had a real romantic relationship. Beyond these two Hollywood stars, Porter Wagoner also frequently appeared in rumors surrounding Dolly. He was the person who helped introduce Dolly to television audiences, and the two shared a deeply meaningful professional relationship. However, Dolly always described their bond as friendship and professional companionship, rather than romance. Ironically, the man Dolly actually had feelings for was Johnny Cash. She met him when she was only 13, and later admitted that Cash was the first man who made her understand what male charisma truly meant. Dolly may have captivated the famous men around her, but that does not mean she had a long list of romantic relationships. For nearly 6 decades, amid millions of fans and countless relationships within the entertainment industry, the only man who seemed to truly hold a special place in Dolly's heart was always Carl Dean. Carl Thomas Dean was the man who stood behind Dolly Parton for nearly 6 decades. Their love story began with an ordinary moment in 1964. On the very first day Dolly Parton arrived in Nashville, it was the first day that 18-year-old Dolly set foot in the capital of country music to pursue her musical dream. And while waiting to do her laundry at the wishy-washy laundromat, she went outside for a walk along the street. A 21-year-old man driving a pickup truck called out to her as he passed by. Accustomed to greeting people back home in the countryside, Dolly waved back. That man, Carl Dean, got out of the truck and approached her to start a conversation. What impressed Dolly most in that moment was that he looked directly into her eyes. Something very rare for her at the time, and Carl seemed genuinely curious about the person behind the young woman. Their love came at exactly the moment when Dolly's career was beginning to take its first major steps forward. But that was also why getting married was not simple at all. Dolly's record label worried that having a young female singer marry too early could affect her career. Carl later had to serve in the military, but the distance did not cause them to break up. When Carl returned, they decided not to wait any longer. On May 30th, 1966, Dolly and Carl secretly traveled to Ringgold, Georgia, to get married. The wedding was witnessed only by Dolly's mother, along with the minister and his wife. The wedding was so private that almost no media outlets knew about it, and what is especially memorable is that the very next morning, Dolly did not wake up to an extravagant honeymoon. She had to get up early to appear on a radio program. For Dolly, marriage did not mean giving up her dream, and Carl seemed to understand that from the very beginning. I knew he was marrying a woman with enormous ambitions, and rather than trying to pull her away from the spotlight, he chose to remain behind her so Dolly could freely pursue her own path. From the very beginning, Carl Dean made it clear that he did not want to enter the glamorous world of show business, and Dolly Parton respected that completely. During their first year of marriage, Dolly persuaded him to attend an awards ceremony. But he was extremely uncomfortable with the atmosphere and firmly declared that he would never attend another event like it again. Instead, he chose a private life, quietly running his asphalt paving business in Nashville and enjoying a simple, peaceful existence. Dolly Parton never tried to change him, and that difference ultimately became one of the secrets behind their lasting happiness. Dolly once shared that the secret to staying together for so long was not necessarily being together all the time. They gave each other personal space while still knowing how to create moments that belonged only to the two of them. They enjoyed RV trips, picnics by the river, meals at home, and even writing poetry for each other. Dolly once spoke about how they would have special dinners, use their finest china, and turn very ordinary things into occasions when the two of them could truly spend time together. While Dolly Parton lived among stage lights, glittering outfits, and the frenzy of her fans, Carl Dean was a quiet, thoughtful man with a warped sense of humor that constantly surprised and entertained her. He was her strong support system, the place she returned to after exhausting tours, and the person who always kept her grounded, reminding her of the simple values of life. Although he disliked the spotlight, Carl Dean remained a quiet source of inspiration for many of his wife's songs. Carl also became the inspiration for many of Dolly's songs. The most famous story involves Jolene, when Dolly once became jealous because a beautiful female bank employee seemed overly friendly with Carl. Dolly transformed that insecurity into a song about a woman pleading with a rival not to steal her husband. However, Dolly later explained that the name Jolene actually came from a little girl who once asked her for an autograph. The story about the female bank employee was what inspired the song's content. Besides Jolene, Carl Dean was also the inspiration for many of her other love songs, including From Here to the Moon and Back, Forever Love, and especially If You Hadn't Been There, a song she wrote to honor him after his death. After 50 years together, in 2016, Dolly and Carl decided to renew their wedding vows. The ceremony was held privately at their home in Nashville, with only a small group of close family members and friends present. Dolly deliberately chose not to have an extravagant wedding, even though she could easily have done so, because she and Carl did not want the stress, noise, or excessive attention. Dolly later recalled that they had planned everything very carefully, inviting only the people who truly needed to be there, and taking the opportunity to capture a few photographs. This time, Dolly finally got to wear a truly beautiful wedding dress. The ivory white gown was created by designer Steve Summers, who was also Dolly's creative director. Carl wore a new suit. Dolly humorously recalled that when she saw her husband in the suit, she thought he looked like a handsome guy straight out of Hollywood. for a man who had always stayed away from cameras and the spotlight like Carl. Agreeing to wear a suit, appear in wedding photographs, and renew his vows with his wife after 50 years was truly a rare exception. But the most touching detail was the reason Carl agreed. Dolly knew that her husband was extremely private and disliked the hubbub of show business. She even joked that getting Carl to agree to a vow renewal ceremony was no easy task. In the end, Dolly persuaded him by explaining that photographs from the ceremony would be sold to raise money for children's charities, particularly the Imagination Library. In other words, even an anniversary celebrating their love was turned into an opportunity to help others. After the ceremony, the two also took a private trip in their camper. They returned to the Ringgold area where they had held their first wedding, then spent time together and went to the lake. This made their 2016 vow renewal feel like more than just a commemorative photo shoot. It felt like a full circle in their love story. 50 years earlier, they had escaped attention to marry simply and privately. 50 years later, they returned, dressed more elegantly, happier, and once again said, "I do," to each other. Despite being together for more than 5 decades, Dolly Parton and Carl Dean did not have any children together. The truth behind it was far more complicated than that. Dolly once openly shared that when they were dating and then got married, both of them assumed that one day they would have children. They had even thought of names for children who had not yet been born. Dolly once said that the two of them did nothing to prevent pregnancy. But in the end, things didn't work out that way. Dolly Parton admitted that becoming a mother had never been one of her deepest desires, and more importantly, not having children gave her the freedom to pursue an ambitious career. She explained that because she had no children and her husband was quite independent, she had the freedom to work, and she believed that a large part of her success was due to that. She also felt that if she had children, she would have stayed home worrying about them, which could have changed everything and perhaps even prevented her from becoming the star she was. Alongside personal choice, there was also an important medical factor. At the age of 35, Dolly was diagnosed with endometriosis, a condition that can lead to infertility. Just 1 year later, at 36, she underwent surgery to remove part of her uterus, leaving her unable to become pregnant naturally. During this period, Dolly went through a severe emotional crisis in the 1980s. She believed that she had experienced a complete breakdown and felt such profound emotional pain that she could understand why some people turned to alcohol, drugs, or even considered ending their lives. Dolly said that her family and faith helped her get through that period. Later, rather than viewing her inability to have children as a loss, Dolly chose to see it positively and found her own way of expressing love. She believed it was God's will, that He did not want her to have children so that all of everyone else's children could become her children. Dolly and Carl poured their love into their nieces, nephews, and children around the world. Growing up in a large family with 12 children, she helped care for her younger siblings and later took in 5 of them to live with her. So her life was filled with the laughter of children. Her nieces and nephews called her Aunt Granny, while they called Carl Uncle Peepaw. After spending 50 years devoted to one person, the most difficult period of Dolly Parton's life came when Carl Dean faced illness. In the final years of his life, Carl Dean's health deteriorated severely, marking an extraordinarily challenging period for both him and his beloved wife, Dolly Parton. Although the family did not officially disclose details about his illness, several sources close to the family reportedly said that Carl had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's around 2019. He endured both physical and emotional suffering throughout his final years before passing away on March 3, 2025, at the age of 82. Before her husband's death, Dolly Parton remained by Carl's side as a steadfast source of support. She viewed caring for him not merely as a wife's responsibility, but as a sacred mission, a way to express her complete love for the man who had shared nearly 6 decades of life with her. Dolly devoted much of her precious time to staying at his bedside, carefully attending to his meals and sleep, and listening to even his smallest thoughts and concerns. This period was far from easy for the legendary singer. Caring for Carl drained Dolly both physically and emotionally, to the point that she admitted she no longer had enough time or mental energy to pay attention to her own health problems. That quiet sacrifice revealed the depth of her love and devotion to her life partner, the man who had always stood behind her and supported her extraordinary career for so many years. It was not only a physical sacrifice. Dolly also endured profound emotional anguish. She confessed that she struggled with feelings of guilt when thinking about the years she had been busy with singing, songwriting, and charitable projects. Dolly blamed herself for not being able to spend enough time with Carl throughout their long marriage, as she was frequently touring and appearing in the spotlight, only to realize when he became ill that those precious moments lost to time could never be recovered. As Carl's final days approached, Dolly stayed by his side as completely as she could. She whispered heartfelt promises into his ear, telling him that they would meet again, and hoped that he could leave peacefully, without anything left unresolved. The image of a world-famous singer quietly sitting beside the hospital bed of her beloved husband revealed a beautiful and simple love that transcended all the fame and glamour of the stage. He died in March 2025 at the age of 82, leaving a profound emptiness in her heart. Dolly once said that Carl was the love of her life and that no one could ever replace his place in her heart. His death took away an important part of her, and although she continued working and giving herself to her audience, her smile was never quite as complete as it had been before. She said that she felt at peace because he is at peace, but admitted that her longing and love for Carl remained full in her heart. Dolly did not hesitate to describe her husband's passing as a hole in my heart, and she had to gradually learn how to live with that pain. She found comfort in her work, in music, and in the charitable programs she continued to develop, much as she had used love and compassion to fill the space left by never having biological children. Those projects became the motivation that helped her rise again and continue on her journey. Most recently, on August 21, 2026, Dolly Parton gave an emotional and candid interview with People magazine. It was the first time she had shared some of her deepest feelings about her nearly six-decade marriage to Carl Dean. In this deeply emotional conversation, the 80-year-old legendary singer did not hide her regret as she looked back on the decision she made years ago about having children. She tearfully recalled, "I once wanted to try in vitro fertilization. I told Carl that we could do it, that I was willing. But Carl didn't agree. He said that if God didn't want us to have children, then that was his will. I respected his decision. But now, looking back, I truly regret it. I wish I had been stronger. I wish I had insisted more, so that we could have had a child." Dolly spoke with profound admiration about Carl's loyalty and the love he had given her throughout the decades. But deep in her heart, she admitted that she had always felt lonely throughout their marriage. She confided, "Carl was the best husband I ever knew. He never cheated on me, never did anything to hurt me, but he never once appeared on stage with me, never stepped into the spotlight to stand beside me during the greatest moments of my career. I stood alone on stage for more than 50 years, and that made me feel empty." She recalled the nights she performed, when the audience erupted in applause, and she would always look toward the wings, hoping to see Carl's figure. But he was never there. I loved him, but there were nights when I wondered whether I had fallen in love with the right person, whether a man who truly loved me could stand by and watch me alone on stage for all those years. Sometimes I thought I had married the wrong man, even though it was incredibly painful to admit. When the journalist asked about the final years she spent caring for her husband, Dolly's voice faltered and her eyes grew red. She shared, "Those years really took a toll on my health. I devoted all my time and energy to taking care of Carl, and I forgot about myself. I ignored the pain and the unusual signs from my body because I thought I had to be strong for him. And now, I have to pay the price for that. She said her health was currently very fragile and that she was dealing with several different illnesses. But her voice remained full of determination and resolve. I won't let it bring me down. I will get treatment, I will fight because I still have so many projects ahead of me. The children in Imagination Library, the people affected by the floods, they need me. I can't fall now. Dolly insisted that even as her body grew weaker, she would continue her mission of bringing books to children and supporting people facing hardship. Because that was the reason she lived and continued to give back. At the end of the interview, Dolly looked directly into the camera with a smile that was both sad and strong. Life is not perfect. I have made wrong choices, I have had regrets, but I am still grateful for what I have. Carl taught me what lasting love means, in his own way, and I will spend the rest of my life making up for my mistakes by loving more and giving more. That is how I face my pain and keep moving forward. Just 4 days later, Dolly Parton also passed away, as though she were destined to reunite with her husband, Carl Dean, in another world. On August 25, 2026, the world was stunned by the news that Dolly Parton had died at the age of 80. Her passing was announced in a video that she herself had asked her nephew Brian Seaver to make many years earlier, to be released when that moment came. According to her family, she passed away peacefully in Nashville, Tennessee, surrounded by loved ones, in the arms of God, and reunited with her late husband, Carl Dean, whom she had always loved. Dolly Parton's cause of death was confirmed by her representative as following a short battle with cancer, and she had been admitted to Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center in Nashville 4 days earlier, on August 21st. In the final years of her life, her health had shown clear signs of decline, as she had previously been forced to cancel a series of planned performances in Las Vegas in late 2025 to focus on treating health issues, including kidney stones. The legacy Dolly Parton left behind is immense, extending far beyond her timeless songs, blonde hair, and sparkling stage outfits. First and foremost, it was a business empire built through extraordinary vision and business acumen from a very young age. At just 21, Dolly established her own publishing company to retain the rights to her songs. A bold decision at the time that later gave her financial independence and complete control over her career. From there, she expanded her empire with Dollywood, which became not only an entertainment destination, but also a major employer and generated an economic impact of up to $1.8 billion annually for East Tennessee, along with the Song Teller Hotel and numerous other brands, creating a powerful business empire centered in Tennessee. Dolly Parton passed away after roughly 7 decades in the entertainment industry, leaving behind an extraordinary body of work. She wrote approximately 3,000 songs, including classics such as Jolene, 9 to 5, Coat of Many Colors, and I Will Always Love You. She sold more than 100 million records worldwide, won 11 Grammy Awards, and became one of the most influential female country artists in history. But if we remember Dolly only through those numbers, that still would not be enough to capture what she truly left behind. Because Dolly Parton devoted much of her life to philanthropy, and perhaps no cause received more of her passion than education and literacy. In 1988, she established the Dollywood Foundation in her hometown of Sevier County, Tennessee, initially with the goal of reducing the local dropout rate. Through the Buddy program, she gave $500 to each 7th and 8th grade student who completed high school, and the results were remarkable. The dropout rate fell from 35% to just 6%. This marked the beginning of the legendary singer's decades-long philanthropic journey and laid the foundation for the major projects that followed. In 1995, Dolly launched Imagination Library, her most famous charitable initiative and perhaps her greatest legacy. The program sends one free book every month to children from birth through age 5, regardless of their family circumstances, with the goal of nurturing a love of reading from the earliest years of life. Dolly founded the program in honor of her father, who could not read. And by 2025, Imagination Library had distributed more than 300 million books to children around the world, including in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and Ireland. In addition, she awarded numerous valuable scholarships, including the $15,000 per year Dolly Parton Scholarship for 5 high school seniors in Sevier County, along with many other scholarships for children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Her contributions went far beyond education. Dolly Parton also made significant contributions to healthcare and scientific research. In 2020, as the COVID-19 pandemic swept across the world, she donated $1 million to Vanderbilt University Medical Center. The money helped fund early research and contributed significantly to the development of Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine. This timely and deeply compassionate act earned admiration around the world, demonstrating her foresight and generosity toward public health. In the area of healthcare infrastructure, Dolly also continued to give generously, donating a total of $1 million toward the construction of LeConte Medical Center in Sevier County, which includes the 30,000 square foot Dolly Parton Women's Services Center. In 2025, East Tennessee Children's Hospital in Knoxville was renamed Dolly Parton Children's Hospital in honor of her tireless efforts and generosity. She also funded the pediatric cancer program at Monroe Carell Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt, inspired by the touching story of her niece, who had once been treated there for leukemia. Whenever disaster struck, Dolly Parton was always among the first to step forward to help affected communities. In 2016, when devastating wildfires ravaged the Great Smoky Mountains, she established the My People Fund to provide $1,000 a month for 6 months to families who had lost their homes. The fund distributed more than $9 million, while a benefit concert she organized raised more than $13 million, bringing hope and warmth to thousands of people who had lost everything in the disaster. In 2021, she continued her philanthropic efforts by donating $700,000 to support victims of the devastating floods in Middle Tennessee. And when Hurricane Helene struck in 2024, Dolly once again showed her generosity by donating $1 million of her own money. While the Dollywood Foundation and her local businesses also joined forces to contribute another $1 million to victims in East Tennessee. These timely and practical acts further proved that Dolly was not only a talented artist, but also a philanthropist who always stood beside her fellow citizens in times of hardship. Beyond these areas, Dolly Parton also devoted special attention to wildlife conservation. She created the Eagle Mountain Sanctuary for bald eagles within Dollywood Theme Park, and in 2003, she was honored with a partnership award from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in recognition of her efforts to protect bald eagles, America's national symbol. This showed that her love for nature and animals was every bit as profound as her love for people. Dolly Parton's tireless philanthropic efforts were recognized with numerous prestigious awards. In 2022, she received the Carnegie Medal of Philanthropy, one of the highest honors bestowed upon philanthropists around the world. In 2025, she was further honored with the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award at the Academy Awards, a fitting recognition of her contributions to communities and humanity. These awards were not merely tributes, but also a testament to her enormous influence in the field of global philanthropy. Dolly Parton once shared her philosophy of life. "I do it from the heart. I never know what I'm going to do or why I'm going to do it. I just see a need, and if I can meet it, I will." Those words truly shaped a meaningful life in which she never stopped spreading love and hope to millions of people around the world. From free books for children and donations toward vaccine research to timely support for disaster victims, everything came from a compassionate heart and a generous spirit, making Dolly Parton truly deserving of her place as a symbol of kindness and humanity in the modern era. Nearly 60 years together, Dolly Parton and Carl Dean were never a glamorous couple. One lived under the spotlight, while the other spent almost his entire life avoiding cameras. They met when Dolly was just 18, married 2 years later, went through the years of her greatest career successes together, and renewed their vows after 50 years. When Carl passed away in March 2025, Dolly said she had lost her life partner, the person who had always been her anchor. And although she later had to learn how to live again with routines that no longer included Carl by her side, she continued to insist that her love for him would never disappear. If it were you, would you believe that a love could last for nearly an entire lifetime, like Dolly and Carl's? Which detail from their story left the strongest impression on you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this story. And if you enjoy stories about the lives behind the legends, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next ones.